Hey, World of Tanks, how you guys doing? This is Guido. We're going to change gears a little bit on Tactics Talk here today. We are going to talk about how you might become a community contributor, and I'm going to give you my journey, some of the things I've thought about, some of the things I have learned along the way. And the reason I'm doing this is Wargaming NA is going to change their community contributor program a little bit, and they're now going to have an entry level community contributor. So it will be partnered community contributors and then contributors, and that is going to let them open up their aperture and bring more people on board and take a look at the people who may have possibilities of growing into a partnered community contributor, and potentially just to bring in some of the lower level guys who are working on things and gals, and just bring more goodness of creators into the game. I think that's a great idea for them. So when I heard about that, what that got me thinking about was how did I get here? What were the steps? What were some of the things that I did or didn't do to become a community contributor for Wargaming? And really, I think this applies to any game along the way, because these are going to be general broad brush ideas for you to think about. I'm not saying it's the only way. It's not Guido's way or the highway, but I think we can all learn a little bit from this, and potentially, because this is what my channel is about, get some discussion going on down in I keep calling it description, down in the comments section, and talk about this a little bit. So Guido's PSA here: how do you become a community contributor? What are some of the things that you need to think about or do in order to do so? So we're going to start with things you need. I am about to say the most obvious stupid thing you've ever heard, but I think it has to be said, because the number one thing you need to be a community contributor is you have to like the game. I'm being serious. You do. We all know the great players that love to hate the game, and every interaction they have is has a negative connotation. And a lot of times, somebody who pushes you and challenges you is a really good thing. And as a community contributor, you probably still want to do a lot of that. But if you're coming at it with the aspect of it is an adversarial, I love to hate the game, you're probably not going to get asked. That's just being upfront and honest, right? So I'm not saying be false. I'm not saying be a rear licker or a boot licker. What I am saying that is, if your point of trying to do creation is totally negative, you're probably not going to have the corporate guys say, you know what, we want to partner with you. Now, we all know there are some out there who are a little bit edgy. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying there are people who are just negative, 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 and you got to like the game, man. If you're if you expect to be asked to be a partner with them, then I think that's probably one of the biggest things right there. So that's where I came from. I really liked the game, and I decided to start. All right, number 2, don't be toxic. That's connected to what I just said, but there's other ways just to be very toxic individual. I don't like that word necessarily, but it is descriptive. And if you're going to be very negative and toxic, even if you are positive and you like the game, if you're going to be toxic about it, then that's probably not going to get you invited into the program. That's just being honest. Now, you can have your own YouTube channel and do whatever you want. You might even have a great following and do your thing, but you're probably not going to get asked to be a CC. And maybe you don't want to do so, but you just have to be honest with yourself in that kind of case. Number 3 is be likable in some way. You don't have to be the big huggy, everybody loves you person, but you have to be likable to your base, whatever it is. That's a little bit esoteric, and I understand there are sometimes people make a living off of being unlikable, but there is a fine line there that you've got to be careful with, especially if you want to be partnered or a CC for a large corporation like these guys. The last one is more important than I really thought, and it's time. You've got to have time. So I'm going to say they expect you to do X, Y, and Z. They don't necessarily expect you to do a certain timeline. You don't work for Wargaming. But if you're not kind of continuously producing on whatever it is that your schedule is, and it doesn't have to be every day and every half day, it's whatever it is that you do, but you have to have some kind of time that you can set aside and do the creation, do the thing that you're going to do in order to be invited to be a CC for this game. So those are the 3 things. You got to like the game. These are basic things. Don't be toxic. You need to be likable in some aspect, and you need to have the time. And that's the one that surprised me a little bit. It's interesting because something like this that isn't your job. I have another full-time job. I have another part-time job as a volunteer for Habitat for Humanity, and I actually have a business that I run on the side. So I have to carve out time during all that to make this thing happen. So don't be surprised that this kind of thing can really start sucking in more and more time. As you learn more about what you're doing and get going, you may find that you can make money off doing something like this. And of course, then time shifts as far as which one is more important. But when you're just getting started, I'm just talking about people who are sitting there going, well, I can do that CC thing. Let's check it out. Make sure you've got your time set aside and that you've got some that you can use there. Otherwise, you're going to be very surprised at how much it can take. Okay, so let's talk about some of the ways you can do, or the avenues you can do, or you can go down to be a community contributor. Now, I'm going to talk primarily about the ways I did it. There are probably some others you can think about, but primarily, what are they? Well, you're going to see YouTube, and you can see my YouTube channel right there over on this monitor. It's Guido1212. I've got 1,660 or so subscribers. We'll talk about some of the requirements for partnering and things like that, but it is not necessary for you to have thousands of followers. I think when I was asked to come on to the program, I was at 400 or so. And I will tell you that it's been fairly lucrative in the case of getting subscribers on YouTube, because since that, when I started 400, 300, whatever it was, you can see that I'm up to 1,600 in about a year. Not bad. That's actually not bad. For a small channel that's kind of a niche one computer game channel, that's not bad. There are others out there. Some of the other CCs have tens of thousands, if not more than that. Just go and take a look at their subscribers. But we're just talking about starting from basic zero. I will say one thing about this. It is a mature game. So carving a piece out of that pie right now, it ain't easy. It ain't easy. You've got to come to the table with something, and we're going to talk about that when we get there. But obviously, YouTube is one way to do it. The nice thing about YouTube is it's free. So you can hang as many videos on YouTube as you want. You can start advertising it around the World of Tanks ecosystem. We'll talk a little bit about that in just a minute, but definitely YouTube is one way. The next way is streaming. I do not stream on YouTube. They do have a streaming service, so I won't talk to that, but other than to mention that obviously that's a possibility. But it's the same idea. Here's Twitch. That's where I stream. I started on YouTube only. I really concentrated on just doing videos because I didn't want to dive into the streaming idea. Frankly, my technical capabilities were limited at the time, and I was just learning all of it. You are going to have to get some software and some editing capability and some other things. Those are subjects for another video later on for more in-depth analysis of it. So eventually I came to streaming, kind of started out real slow, and I've been doing quite a bit of it lately, and now I'm an affiliate. So I'm not a Twitch partner, but I am a Twitch affiliate. Well, again, we'll talk a little bit about the requirements for that in a moment. But that's actually been very fun. I've enjoyed that quite a bit. You just sit there and chat. It kind of depends on how you want your stream to be. Some streamers interact quite a bit, some don't. You've seen a lot of them, I'm sure, in a lot of different ways it can be done. But there you go. One of the avenues is to be a streamer. You will find that the CCs on North America tend to concentrate on one or the other. And I suppose if I was pinned down, I would say I'm a YouTuber who occasionally streams. But I think I do a little bit more of both of those than a lot of people do. I have a video going out every single day on YouTube, and I stream as much as I can. We can get into details on what you got to do with streaming, but one of the things about it reaches back to what we just talked about on time. This one takes a lot of time. If you really want to get serious about streaming, you need a lot of time to do so. True Voodoo and Cody Menz are probably two that you could talk to about that or have data on that because they stream quite a bit. Ominous Fixin and some of the others who do a lot of streaming. It is quite time intensive, but without getting into the numbers, which I can do later on, Twitch is a little more lucrative, or maybe a lot more depending on who you talk to right now, than YouTube if we're talking about the money side of it. All right. Now, I'm not saying I'm here to show you how to make money on this. I make a little bit, but I'm not the 100% expert on getting rich on YouTube and streaming. But what we're really talking about here is how to become a community contributor. And I'm going to say it's not necessarily easy, but it's probably not as hard in terms of numbers and what kind of following you have to get than you might think. All right. The point of it is quality content, and we'll get to that in just a little bit. But there you go. So you can do it on Twitch. You can do it via YouTube. Another place to start is the main forums. Also Reddit. Reddit's a bit of the Wild West, but the main forums is a place. There are several people actually that drop guides and quite a bit of stuff on the main forums. and that's a good place to start to get your name out and get a little name recognition, and sort of show your product, show your creation, and see if it gets any reaction, good or bad. Get a little feedback, take a look and see if people are like, oh, that looks pretty good. And that's one of the things I started doing initially with my YouTube channels, my YouTube videos on my YouTube channel, is I would hang them on the main forums, occasionally over on Reddit. Reddit's a bit of the Wild West. It's not as regulated as the forums would be. So, Reddit is Reddit. You take your life into your own hand diving in there. It's not terrible, but there you go. I'll just throw that out for you. So the main forums. The other way to do it is there are several people that are running blogs, websites, blogs. There are the stat sites that people run. There's several different kind of industry around the industry types of ideas that you can do as well. That's pretty well saturated. A blog is a huge time sink, especially one that's a news blog like Harkonnen has, and a couple of the others. That's a constant. The development of the blog, the website, coding, all the things that you've got to do with that. So if you're into that, that's fantastic, but be aware that one is probably a time sink in orders of magnitude over what I do. Even the hours so I spend a day creating videos and things like that, I think the blogs are even more. But that depends on how engaged you are and how often you're going to turn over content or create content right there. So those are some of the ways to think about it. You could just simply do guides and put them on the forum. And if they're good guides, and maybe you've got a website or a blog that you hang them and then you put the link on the forum, that would be a way to do, just to kind of put your foot in it and get started. So there's lots of different ways. I think those are kind of the main ones that I would say are out there. All right, how do you get started? This is interesting. All right, so how do you get started? Well, the stupid statement is you start. But I think a lot of people get hung up on that. Like, where do I start? Well, make something, create something, do something. All right, no better time than the present. This is my first video. It was hung 4 years ago. 4 years ago, it has 72 views. March 13th, 2015 is when this thing was hung. And you can see it's got some of the older graphics. I have some music in the background. I can't monetize it. We can talk about details of how the monetization and all that goes in another video. But it was the very first video. It was called 112 Solo / Westfield with commentary. So my idea was I am going to take replays and then I'm going to do voiceovers on them while I watch my replay. I'm going to discuss with people how it is that I played, because I found that I was one of the better players in the game. Not obviously the best, but pretty darn good. And I thought I had a lot to teach. So I went and said, all right, I'm going to start making videos that are teaching videos. And that has sort of been the idea of my channel. Just smash my mic. The idea of my channel from the very beginning, that I'm going to be more of a teaching, commentary kind of channel. So just start. The 85% rule, right? 85%. If you're waiting for the perfect plan, then you're probably going to go well past when you need to execute. So find the 85% solution and go for it. That's really, and I know that all the kind of the speakers that get out there and get you jazzed up, they're always talking about it. It's just true. It just is. If you want to do this, then start. Find something you're good at in the game and try to leverage that. A good plan executed now is better than a perfect plan executed 2 weeks, 3 years, 500 million years from now. Really, it is about as easy as that. Make a video, start your blog, do a game guide, do a tank review, whatever it is that you think you've got, do a stream, right? Get yourself set up on Twitch, get yourself some streaming software, crank it up, and just do it. And you're going to learn as you go. You're going to learn as you go. Now, you want to do due diligence. You want to get into some of the investigations and research and get an idea of what you're doing when you're using software, when you're getting ready to get into Twitch and all that. But until you actually pull the trigger and start doing it, it's all going to be guesswork up to that point, right? It's all going to be guesswork up to that point. Let's do some do's and don'ts, some things I've learned. All right, let's start with the don'ts. Number one, don't be something you are not. Okay? If you're not the greatest player in the game, then you probably shouldn't make videos about how to be the greatest player in the game. For example, for me and my channel, I am a teaching channel, and my aim is at the beginning to intermediate player. I am probably not going to teach you how to be skill 4 to you. All right? Not probably, I'm not. But I can definitely teach people from beginner to intermediate how to get into the, lower levels of Unicum. I can definitely teach that. That's someplace I've been, someplace I've got to. I've unlocked every tank in the game, blah, blah, blah. That's something I know, right? So I'm not trying to be something I am not. I'm also not trying to be the comedian of World of Tanks because while clearly I'm very funny, I'm not as funny as Klaus. The guy's, he's just a funny guy. He is. So those are just two examples right there. So you have to find your niche. Don't be a tryhard. All right, I'm going to kind of leave that one, but I think you understand what I mean. You know the person that's always agitating to get something. He wants to be on the team. He wants to be invited. He wants to go to the party. Don't be that guy. Now, you don't have to be aloof and standoffish. What I'm saying is your creation, your content should speak for itself. All right, so don't come up there and pull on the coattails of people. Maybe a little bit, right? You have to self-promote. Absolutely, you have to do that. But don't go into the try-hard side of it, all right? People see through that. They do. They see through it immediately. It's a turn-off. And all of a sudden, even if your content's good, if you're a big pain in the arse, maybe you don't get the view, you don't get the look that you might want. All right, so do's. Here's some do's. I've already alluded to this just a little bit. Be good at something. Be good at something. Find something that you are good at. You're good at the game. You're good at making videos. You're good at explaining the game. You're good at teaching the game. You're good at making a blog. Whatever it is, be good at something. Find that and then leverage that thing. Don't try to be all things to everyone. If you can, then good on you. if you're the all father of World of Tanks, then go for it. But my advice is when you're starting out, find something that you think you're good at or you know you're good at and try to leverage that and work on that. So what is that potentially? The game, streaming, teaching, entertaining. Those are 4 big subjects I thought of right off the top of my head. I am sure there are more. Blogging, whatever the case may be. Something that where you are creative, where you can make the content, that's what you want to start. That's a do right there. Find your niche. Find your little niche. Guido's niche, at least as far as I believe, is helping new to intermediate players. A little bit of the vet connection, being a vet myself. Reaching back to what we just talked about, if you're an 18-year-old kid, then you probably aren't going to be aiming your channel at vets and talking that language. But you may be talking 18-year-old kid language. So maybe there's something you're good at there, whether it's memes, creating content for the younger folks, all that kind of thing. Find that niche. Find that little thing that you do well and turn it into a big thing. The last one is, similar to those, is find a need and fill it. That's kind of hard right now because I think we've really got that covered, but there may be some need out there in World of Tanks that you look at and go, hey, nobody's doing this, whatever it may be. Right now, what I think you're going to have to do is find one of those things and do it better than somebody else, or at least well enough to get noticed, that kind of thing. Just being honest and upfront. But you know what? I don't know everything, so maybe there's something out there not being done where a new content creator can walk in and go, you know what? Nobody's doing this. I'm gonna do this thing that nobody's doing, and good on you. That's outstanding. Let me know what it is, because I can't think of one. But you know what? Just because I can't think of one doesn't mean it's not there. I bet there is one. Let's talk really quickly platform requirements. We're gonna brush over it a little bit, and we'll wrap it up. Okay, so you might be asking yourself what it is you've got to do to kind of get rolling with YouTube or with Twitch. And again, I don't know the YouTube. I could look it up, but I only looked up YouTube and Twitch just to give you a general idea. Now, there are no requirements necessarily to hang videos on YouTube, and there are no requirements to just start streaming. I would recommend that if that's where you're going to aim, whether it's YouTube or Twitch or both, just start doing those things. And you'll start to learn as you go. However, the numbers are that you need to know. If you want to be a YouTube partner, that's where you start to get paid, that kind of thing. It's 1,000 subs and 4,000 minutes of watch time in 12 months. I had no problem with the 4,000 minutes of watch time because I was hanging a video every day, and even at 20 to 50 views or so, that number was passed. Where I did have an issue was getting the subs. So 1,000 subs. As a matter of fact, the only reason I got there was from this program. So there is a symbiotic relationship here with Wargaming and with you as a content creator. They can kind of get the ball rolling with that. And some of the content creators have kind of expanded into other games and other places. And I don't want to say that this is your stepping off point to go do bigger and better things, but it can be, because they're going to help you go. And at the same time, then you're helping them with their game, getting the content out there and helping them advertise just because you enjoy playing a game, which is actually pretty dang cool if you think about it. Pretty dang cool. So for Twitch, it's 500 minutes in the last 30 days and 7 unique streams. 7 unique streams in the last 30. You need to average 3 or more viewers, which is pretty easy. Averaging 3 or more viewers, that's going to happen pretty quickly. Partners much more. I'm not gonna talk about that. That's something on the effect of 75, average of 75. Not, hey, I peaked at 75, but no kidding, 75 viewers for each hour or so on your stream. That's quite a bit, actually, and we do have several of those that are community contributors. I haven't met that criteria yet. I'm more in the 25 to 30 at this point. The thing about Twitch, though, just to get into some of the details on that, is in order to get 75 average, you need to be streaming very regularly, 2, 3, 4 times a week or so. Again, I'm not the 100% expert on that level of requirement. True Voodoo and Cody Menz are 2 of them right there. Mountain Man, I believe, as well. I think Ominous was there at some point, and some of the other CCs that do a lot of streaming. Could probably talk to you about some of those things right there. But those are just to throw out some of the numbers that you need. But really the point of the requirements is that you start putting videos out and you start streaming. And if your content is compelling, and if it fits what Wargaming is looking for as far as the community contributor goes, then perhaps you'll get the invite coming in there. So what have we talked about, guys and gals? Things you need: you got to like the game. Don't be toxic. Be likable. Have the time. Ways to do it: YouTube, streaming, main forums, websites, guides, being active, being reasonable, being likable. Just start, folks. If you want to do this thing, that's what I did. You know, I'm retired Air Force. I was sitting around playing the game a lot, and all of a sudden I realized I have a lot of freaking knowledge about this game. Strangely, I know a lot about a fairly specific video game that I have gained over the years. I was not terribly creative yet. I hope I'm a lot more creative than I was, but I saw a need in the learning side, so that's where I aimed it. I went, I'm going to laser focus a little bit right here. And I just started 4 years ago, my first video, and it's morphed in from there. I'm not telling you it's going to take 4 years for you to do it, because I was very much the hobbyist, kind of did it here and there. When I started getting serious, I actually got picked up by Wargaming fairly quickly once I started getting serious and getting a following. But the point of all that is, I had to start somewhere, and I did. The 85% rule is in effect, guys. A good plan executed now, better than the perfect plan executed next year. Don't be something you're not. Don't be a try-hard. Be good at something. Find that one thing and be good at it. Whether it's gaming, streaming, teaching, YouTubing, whatever it is. Entertaining. Maybe you're just the entertaining kind of person. Find your niche, find the need, and fill it. Platform requirements we touched on just a little bit. I can dig into those a little bit more about what you've got to do to finally get those partnered things done and get the payments going and all that kind of good stuff a little while later if anyone is interested. But I just wanted to throw that out because Wargaming is going to open up the aperture a little bit here, and I think that's a good thing because I know there's a lot of people producing out there. I see it on the forums. I see people dropping guides. There's a guides section in the forum. I didn't dig into the forum for you, but you know it's there. There's a section where you can start hanging things. And I'm telling you, Domo and the rest of the community people at Wargaming are watching that. They look at it and they want to see, what are you producing? What is your attitude about it? Are you a good fit for the community contributor program? You don't have to be a bootlicker or a rear kisser. You do have to be reasonable. You do have to like the game. And then from there, I think they're very reasonable. They allow us to pretty much say what we want. If we see something we don't like, we say it. But the question is, how do you say it, right? If you're going to come in and burn down the shack every time you roll in and have a complaint, well, you're probably not going to get invited. It's nothing personal, but nobody wants to deal with that kind of guy or gal on a regular basis. But if you're reasonable about it, when I say reasonable, I mean that you can be critical but in a reasonable manner, then I don't think they have any problem with it. I've never had trouble with it, and neither have any of other CCs. So you can get the whole, oh, he's a sellout thing, and just forget about that, because that's really not a thing. Anyway, I hope this video helps you guys a little bit. Let me know down below if there's something else that you're interested in as far as this whole process goes. When I got into it, there was very little information. I might think about doing a guide, but a written guide is another order of magnitude over a video just sort of talking about it there. But maybe as we dive into it, I'll be able to organize my thoughts a little better on very specific areas and what it is that you've got to do to be a community contributor. And really, at the end of the day, a content creator, which kind of blows my mind that I would consider myself a content creator on the internet, even for a very little niche area like that. All right, that's all I've got, folks. Thanks for tuning in. I do appreciate it. If you want to support the channel, you can do so down below. There are multiple ways to do that. And good luck. If you decide to try to do this, man, good luck. Hopefully I see you in the community contributor channel sometime in the future, and I can check out the cool content that you are making. So we will see you.